So I'm curious to see how many apps you actually have on your phone.
Where do you find that out?
If you go into the phone, you go to General and About, it'll give you like an app count.
General About applications. 226.
Whoa,
How many do you have?
32.
That's because you don't have anything cool on your phone. That's what the default number of apps on your phone. Welcome to Questions Over Coffee. Today I'm drinking Wendigo coffee from Avoca Coffee Roasters out of Fort Worth, Texas. It's a new roast that I'm trying. It's a single origin, but it's still a blend of two unique beans. I like the art that they have on it. This little namesake here is a fictional creature from Algonquin folklore, a man-eating monster. What's so funny? I can't pronounce it. All right. Created from the greed of men. So there you go. If you're greedy, you should drink this coffee. I'm kidding. But it will help you know when to go. So, when I drink this in the morning, I know that I'm going to have to go. So it helps me when to go. Anyhow, let's get to some questions, right? Okay. First question from Birds and Fire on YouTube asks, I will be climbing SRT on the Akimbo. What rope would you recommend? I currently own an 11.8 meter polyester rope. So, first of all, I'm pretty sure that you want to ditch that polyester rope. If I'm thinking about what I think I'm thinking of, you're talking about some kind of cheapo rope like this that's just got a polyester core in it. You don't want that. You want Kermantle construction, which we talked about on, I believe, the last episode, but I will link that in the episode intel just so you know. Oh, it was Gear Tasting Radio, right? We were talking about rope types? Okay. So I will link that episode. It'll give you kind of a good overview of rope types. But you want Kermantle construction, number one, and I looked it up and I didn't know what an akimbo was. So basically that's a device for tree climbers, like people that trim trees and things like that. From what I could gather, I watched a really dumb video on YouTube where the guy was Mr. Unsafe Safety Sam. He had all kinds of crazy carabiners all over the place, one of which was like one of those things you get with the pair of gloves when you buy China gloves. So you need to use real carabiners. Don't use cheap ones like the video I watched. Make sure you screw down so you don't screw up on any locking carabiner, and use best practices. I have done ascending before. I haven't used anything like that. These are the ascenders that I've used. These are from Black Diamond. So basically what you would do with those is create a fixed loop on either end of these, and then that's what you would use to put your feet in for stirrups, and you would walk up the rope basically with these. I believe I'd had a video on these a long time ago. I'll see if we still have that available. But with this device, it looked like it was a faster method than using two separate ascenders like that, because you're not dealing with the, let me open these up here. So you're not dealing with the hand-over-hand lockup. So what I mean by that is that you're limited here as you ascend the rope. You're hitting that other level there. So this is one device that you're just kind of standing up in, and it looks almost like a bicycle with your feet kind of feeding up the rope. So it looked like an interesting device. It's one that I'm certainly interested in and I'd like to try. But the other part of your question is about the size of the rope. That 11.8 millimeter or meters millimeters, it is millimeters, doesn't quite translate into the size that I could gather is recommended. What I saw was 7/16, and 7/16 is like 11.6 millimeters, so it's what you have is a little thicker than what's recommended, so I would just look into that too. And then double check your rope, make sure it's Kermantle. All right, next question. If you were in a grid down situation and you needed antibiotics or some sort of non-over-the-counter medication, what would you do? Is there access for the public to have antibiotics or these types of medications? So you can go to a doctor and talk your way into getting certain medications. I don't really condone that type of thing, but however, if you're looking for something to hang on to for that type of situation, the problem you run into with prescription medications of any kind is that there's expiration dates, and you start questioning the efficacy of the medicine as that expiration date gets further pushed out and out. So I wouldn't get rid of expired medications in that. I don't know. That's a way to do it, is just kind of hang on to what you already have. Because the thing with expiration dates is they're usually the most safest expiration date that they recommend. It's not to say that the efficacy is immediately lost the day after that expiration date, so it'll stick around for a little bit after that. But I mean, really, if you're in a situation where all power was out, something was lost, and you absolutely needed medication, I don't condone breaking the law or breaking into something, but places do have medication that probably wouldn't be heavily guarded. I don't know, is that wrong? Maybe just cut that out. I don't know. Okay, next question comes from Tony R. from Facebook. I'm wondering what kind of apps you use on your phone to keep organized, hunting, survival, shooting, and every day. So I do have a couple of apps that I depend on for those type of things. Let me find those real quick and I'll tell you. Color coded. So one of the things that I like is I've used in the past the Knights Armament Bullet Flight app. That's a big one that I like because you can calculate ballistics with that. You can make a range card and things like that if you're shooting precision rifle. So I like depending on that. There's a couple of things you need to configure with it though, such as scope height and those kind of variables. But once you get all that dialed in, it is a very good app to use for that. I also use the Compass app quite a bit. I like to just double check what my manual compass is doing sometimes. So I'll want direction, I'll go into my vehicle, I'll pull my manual compass out and I'll just kind of check it with the compass that's on my iPhone. Typically it's pretty damn accurate, so I'm impressed with the iPhone's compass for that. Then there's also an app I have called Tactical Nav, and that is something that I haven't used in a while, and I'll need to make sure that there's not an update that's preventing me from using it. But it's a way to get up to like a 10-digit grid through MGRS from any point that you're at, so it uses location to basically output a 10-digit grid. But that's also great for topo maps and things like that, and actual navigation. You can literally use it to navigate in that sense. So that's something I've been messing around with in the past. I also use Prey on my phone. That's an app that normally doesn't get talked about. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that, but in the case of a device getting stolen, or like a laptop or a phone, it will periodically take photos through the selfie camera on a phone, through the front-facing camera, and it'll also update location and things like that. So it's a way other than just Find My iPhone to track down your devices. So I have it on my laptop too, which is pretty cool. So if that ever gets ripped off, I have that going. And it runs in the background, it disguises itself too, so it's not readily apparent what that is if someone's looking through the application. So I think that's kind of cool. And then, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Theodolite, I think is how you say it. But it's an app that actually gives you a bearing. So it superimposes, if you can see that. I don't know how accurate the screen is going to be with what you're seeing. But it'll not only give you distance, it'll give you actual incline, decline, gives you a coordinate, a heading, and it can tell you how far away an object is in the distance. So it's kind of neat for range estimation. I use it for that, and you know, I've used it a couple of times when someone's like, hey, how far away do you think that is? You think you could get a shot off to that distance? And not that my friends and I sit around talking about that kind of stuff, but it's happened. But that's an app that I like a lot. There's also one called, pull it up here, TacFit Trainer. That's something that I use for fitness stuff. It's got a cool interval timer on it. That's one that I like a lot. And let me think of some other ones. You said specifically survival, shooting, every day. Every day I use OmniFocus on my phone. That's just something I'm always in and out of every day. Also my mail client, I use AirMail, which I'm less than impressed with. I miss you, Mailbox. That's what I always say. I wish it was still around. Amazon app, use that every day almost. I'm always ordering stuff from Amazon. I still have social apps on my phone. I've been thinking about just completely deleting them. Rob did that and kind of inspired to do the same. Also like Star Walk, that's a cool app for the stars. I'm always trying to come up with new ways of remembering different constellations and stuff. I'm not really super into that kind of thing with that type of, whatever the word is for looking at stars. Astronomy. That's it. I'm not really super into astronomy, but I do know how to navigate from the stars too. So I'm typically always looking at Cassiopeia or what the Big Dipper is doing in relation to the North Star. So I like checking that out every once in a while on a nice night where I can see the stars in my backyard. I'll typically pull that out and kind of see what constellations what. I like that one too. Obviously I can go down a rabbit hole with what apps I use. So hopefully that's a decent overview of kind of what I have on my phone. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that in detail on like a Gear Tasting Radio episode. It might be kind of cool. It inspired me. All right, next question from Xavier over email. My buddy and I try to get out in the woods for an overnight at least once a year for a camping trip. Cell reception isn't that great, and our wives aren't too happy about not having communications with us. This is generally why we don't ever stretch the trip into a weekend. The areas we go are usually no more than 40 miles from our homes. Are there any portable transceivers that can reach that kind of distance without power from vehicles? Ham technician license assumed. I chuckle, but honestly, I like to keep my wife updated with what I'm doing too, and I understand the struggle. You want to make sure that your significant other knows you're safe when you're out in the outdoors. I have never got and purchased a spot unit, but that's something I've thought about in the past, of having something to update via. It's basically like a text message that you can send out, and it'll also automatically send out updates of, you know, here's my location, I'm doing fine. Here's my location, I'm doing fine. That type of thing might be good if you're really concerned about it. However, yes, any transceiver that you have more than likely is going to be able to transmit and receive on ham frequencies. So you're probably good with that if you want to deal with getting a ham technician license. If it's a true emergency, remember you can communicate on a ham frequency, no matter what people like to say. Everyone likes to dispute that to me whenever I say it, especially people that have ham licenses. I don't know, there's something about people with licenses that just, it's like they want to butt heads with everybody about how you should do things on the ham frequencies. So anyway, cell reception isn't that great. Yeah, I mean, you can use repeaters to bounce the signal pretty much anywhere. Cross country is a little more difficult with repeaters. However, something that's 40 miles away, I have no doubt you'll be able to at least hit one repeater between home and there. However, you'll have to have some kind of transceiver at home to receive that, or your wife will, or some kind of base station unit for that. So that's a consideration that really you'll have to kind of teach that to whoever is on the end of that. So that's why I lean more towards kind of like a spot device for something like that. So good question, thanks. And that is back to the rope question. So that's all we have for questions over coffee. Thanks for listening. I've heard it through the grapevine that YouTube screwed up the bell thing now on the subscribe. So while we'd appreciate your subscription, I think sharing has a big impact now on YouTube. So if you like what we're doing here on the YouTube channel, please consider sharing our video. It would help us a lot. And make sure you use the pound tag Gear Tasting on any social media network. And we'll find your questions and get them answered here on our Questions Over Coffee episode. Thanks for watching.